here in this moment. Notice if you feel a little more relaxed and a little more comfortable. And take a moment to focus on all that your mom relationships, either as a mom or with your mom, all that they are, rather than all that they are not. Remembering that you come to love not by finding a perfect person, but by learning to see an imperfect person perfectly. So thinking of this challenging relationship and thinking of one thing that's perfect about it, how are you the perfect mom, or how is your mom the perfect mom for you? Perhaps not the perfect, but there's something perfect about the relationship, something to teach you. And how can you show up for this relationship with love? Remembering that love for yourself and love for others creates space for you to breathe. It allows your heart to fill more completely, which nourishes you and heals you so you can then heal and love others. Love inspires, love motivates, love connects, love is calm, love is kind, love is thoughtful, love is spacious. Love does not blame, love does not consume, love does not acquire. Love does not demand perfection. Love is accepting. Love is giving. And love finds solutions. So take in one more deep, long inhale here. And an exhale, just letting all the angst go and allow yourself to settle here peacefully, calmly, being present. And bring your hands back to your thighs and open your eyes and come back into our lovely Zoom room, such as it is. We're still here in the Zoom rooms quite a while later from when we began. So I wanted to start, and I said this before a couple of you joined, just to check out the podcast because there's really good stuff there. And a reminder that there's no yoga this weekend. So you'll have to look at the recording, and I'll share the one from last year's Mother's Day class that I taught with my son, which is really fun, tomorrow. So have fun doing that if you want. And I wanted to start with a quote that's actually from one of my yoga books. And I noticed in the front, she dedicated the book to her mom. And it's written by Janet Archer, who's also a yoga teacher. And she's also a coach. And her mom, I don't actually know if her mom's still alive, but it's dedicated to her mom, who has pretty significant Alzheimer's. And what she wrote in the front seemed really relevant for all our relationships with our moms. And she wrote, "Little did I know in the end, you would be one of my greatest teachers. I love how life always gives us what we need most, and life gave me you." And that applies in my mind to both your own mom and perhaps your children. Perhaps they're not the exact child you thought you would have, but they are your greatest teacher, and your mom is probably your greatest teacher, and you are probably their greatest teacher. And so if you think about these mom relationships, they're really all about love, and that's what love gave us one another. And so coming from that space of all the things that love is, I think it's a really beautiful way to think about it. And then the other thing is this idea that mindfulness, just by its definition, is really what leads you to be the perfect mom and the perfect daughter or child. We're all women here, so I can say daughter, because it helps you be in the moment, and it helps you enjoy the process and get out of judgment no matter what's happening, right? Because mindfulness is noticing and being aware with non-judgment and then acting from intention. So if you think about that, it's paying attention and being present. And that's exactly what a good mom would do and a good daughter would do, is to be present without judgment. So tapping into all your mindfulness in these relationships is, I think, one of the most powerful tools, and it feels better. So I'm always about that. So why not feel better? Was my thought. So there's one other quote I wanted to share because it felt really powerful to start this off, which is, "Love is not I will give you this if you do this for me. Love is, I will give you this so that you may shine. And realizing that when we allow ourselves to shine and allow other people to shine without expectation, that's really where the beautifulness comes. And yet we so often think, well, if I've done this for my child, I think this even with my teenagers, right? They should do this for me, or with our mom expectations. And so just realizing that love is about helping the other people in your life shine. And that feels like it's a way to get out of your manual and a way to focus your intentions on something that feels so much better. So with that, I wanted to throw out a couple of tools and ideas to start, and then I'm hoping you guys want to get coached because that's always more fun. So the tools that I would throw out are, number one, curiosity, because when we're in this, these relationships are full of emotion. And so curiosity just takes you out of that judgment and just sort of takes you even out of yourself. And so asking how interesting, I think, especially with your mother, super powerful. It's even more helpful than the acceptance of course. And you can just say how interesting, or even if your kids are having a temper tantrum, how interesting, why are they doing that? Or if you're all revved up, how interesting, I'm revved up. And I think curiosity brings you to ask those helpful questions potentially, rather than the unhelpful questions that kind of sink you. And so for me, it's a very loving tool, particularly useful. I know Robin has teenagers, and I think Harrietta, you do too, right? Particularly useful with teenagers. Like, don't judge, just ask how interesting that they're doing that very unpleasant thing or made a decision that you wouldn't make. I think it takes you to a place where you can pause and be present with it. And perhaps you can accept and not like it, but you can move forward with more intention. So I would start with that. And then the second one, and these are all in those like 9 tenets or attitudes of mindfulness that John Kabat-Zinn talks about, but they're just mindful strategies is what I would call them. So trust is one of them. And one thought is, if you can't trust yourself as a mom, which many of us don't, who can you trust? There's no one else who loves your children more and no one else who cares more. And yet we spend all this time second guessing, like, did I make the right decision? Did I do that? And so trusting yourself, I think, is really powerful. And realizing that all of our self-doubt really comes from love. When we think that we've made a mistake in our relationships, we doubt ourselves, it's because we care and because we love. And so if you can see that doubt not as I did something wrong, but as this is because I love so much, I think that then doesn't send off your like danger alert bell in your head, and you can focus on moving forward. And so it actually helps you be that mom that you want to be, or the daughter that you want to be, when you can trust. And really, when you think about it, you can also, we often feel like we can't trust our own moms, but we can trust them. They just behave in ways that we think they should behave differently, and we behave in ways that they think we should behave differently. But we can trust them, knowing that really they're coming from this place of deep love for the most part. I don't know a mom who doesn't love. She just shows it in ways that might not be the most helpful, if you want to call it that. And then I think also that worry can be love and hurt can be love. And actually in the life coach school, they teach you that love doesn't hurt, but I've told people I totally don't agree, that I think it does hurt precisely because it's love. And so if you didn't love someone, it wouldn't hurt. And so just allowing that hurt is part of love and worry is part of love. And again, it comes from the care and the love itself. And so it's not a bad thing. It's just part of the journey. And that there's, highs and lows, and they just match, they balance one another out. So the last two are choice, and choice is really around intention. So choose how you want to show up. And you might as well choose something that feels good, because most of us don't want to choose resentment, anger, or frustration. That's unintentional. And so choose with intention how you want to show up. And if you're going to choose how you want to show up, you absolutely have to choose how you want to feel first, because as I think all of you know, your feelings are what drive how you show up. And so I find that really helpful, because if you want to feel love, then you have to, if you want to show up loving, you have to feel love. If you want to show up with connection or have connection, you have to feel connected. If you want to find peace, then you you ask yourself this question, well, what would peace do? So when you can tap into the feeling you want, so some like relationships with our moms, we want to feel peace or we want to feel connected. Harmony might be another one. Just depends. Some people just want to feel neutral or not angry. And so you can just pick whichever one feels like the one that resonates most with you and use that as your kind of guiding light or your mindful intention. And then the last one is acceptance. And I threw a bunch of things in here. So acceptance that there's good and bad. And I know for many of you, that's a familiar concept. Like all these relationships aren't supposed to feel good all the time. And when we just say, oh, this is the bad part, or this is the part where we don't get along, then you can just kind of let it go and you don't have to dwell on it being a big life problem. And then, and same with children, right? There's good and bad about our beloved children. They're not all good, and the relationship is not all good, and being a mom is not all good. And even though I think the Hallmark cards and Facebook might tell you that's different, but it's not. And then accepting but not liking, I think, is a really powerful tool, both with our moms and with our children, particularly with our teenagers. When you accept but don't like, it gives you that spaciousness to kind of move through it and act with more intention. And you also get to accept and allow, and they both fit under acceptance, because accept and allow your own feelings. You get to be frustrated, you get to be angry. When you feel like, oh no, I'm just supposed to be appreciative and grateful for all of it, you just press that all down and it just bubbles up and bubbles up and bubbles up. So if your mom triggers you, you just accept and allow the fact that she does trigger you, right? She does. And part of it is because you love her, and part of it is because you've had a really long relationship. And it doesn't even matter why, but when you just accept that, oh, she does that, and you allow yourself to be a little bit triggered rather than like trying to suppress it, it softens and dissipates through you. And that can be really, really helpful. And you can also wish that your mom or your children were different. And I think that sounds funny, but many of us do wish they were different. We want them to be different. So we can wish that, and we can accept them exactly as they are, and we can love them anyway, and it can be okay that your mom isn't or wasn't that mom to you. And just sort of realizing you could wish you had a different mom growing up, but she wasn't. And it should be, and she wasn't. But if you just add the and, it's that kind of acceptance of duality, which is a yoga thing and a mindful thing. You can have two things exist at once. And if you just let them exist at once, it feels much better. You're not having this constant conflict and pressure and tension. So those are my thoughts to get us started in this conversation. And I am hoping that some of you might be up for getting coached, and we're a pretty small group. So maybe it would be nice to just introduce ourselves to